I believe it's quite late now. Are you in Sydney or?
Yeah, I'm in Sydney, so yeah, it's about 8 p.m. But that's okay. No problem, man. Happy to chat. Sorry, it took me a couple of minutes to find the right link, but no, really nice to be with you and looking forward to our conversation, inshallah.
Inshallah. Yeah, we have prepared some questions for you to sort of answer. But before that, are you going to have some kind of PowerPoint that you like to share, or just you will be answering the questions that I sent you the other day?
I think let's just have a conversation is okay. Yeah, I keep it
Yeah, that'd be great.
conversational. Yeah, yeah, I've got the questions here. So no problem. But I think keep it casual and people will hopefully enjoy that.
Right. Okay. So now we're going live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as well.
Sounds
Um,
good?
yeah, on multiple platforms. So yeah, so let's start.
Sounds
Uh,
good.
all right. So well, again, it's been a pleasure and honor to see you virtually in person. Like I think I've been following your work since probably the early 2000s when I was still in college, I believe. And it was like the early years of Google search engines, and then suddenly your name popped up, and then like with very beautiful, intricate designs, Islamic designs, and then yeah, and then been following you for a while now. So it's an honor for me to have this sort of discussion. And again, it's also a very good momentum for us as well, because you just launched your new book, and we'll be talking about that as well. So all right.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
uh it's really great to be here. I'm looking forward to our conversation and yeah, you're an OG supporter, man. If you've been following me since now I'm feeling my age, but alhamdulillah, I've earned these gray hairs, I think, and yeah, it's that's
I
beautiful.
guess I'm
It's
doing yours as well. Yeah.
it's been a blessing, after being on this journey for 20 plus years,
Mhm.
to gather
Mhm.
gather friends from around the world, and yeah, I'm really glad that we can chat, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, and I just learned that we've got some mutual friends on Instagram as well, like I think Baraka Blue and Anna Scannon and all those
Yeah.
people in the US, but probably they're now traveling around, you know, due to one way or the other reason.
Yeah, there's some special brothers, yeah, and Barker Blue, he's a dear friend, Ahmed, and we've been sharing many moments over the last 2 decades on the creative
Yeah,
and spiritual path.
yeah.
So it's a big blessing to have people like him in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I worked with them as well in the past. And so yeah, and I'm so looking forward to our discussion this afternoon. All right, so let me say hello to our audience in Southeast Asia. Good afternoon, and hello everyone. I'm Muhammad Reza from the Good News from Southeast Asia. And today we're having a very special speaker and resource person, one of the very well-known graphic designer based in Australia, but been traveling all around the world in the past 20 plus years. And today we're going to talk about specifically on his new book titled The Heart of Design, Spirituality, Creativity, and Entrepreneurship. But beyond that, we'll be talking about a lot on design philosophy, the creative process that he's been going through writing and finishing his book, and the design trends, and how it feels like to be a I would say, if you don't mind, Peter, like to be a Muslim in Australia. Like I was in Sydney a few weeks ago, and then I think it's quite I would say it's quite supportive, the environment towards the sort of diversity of culture and religious background. So I think it's more positive in that sense compared to what's happening right now in probably in the US or in some parts of Europe. So without further ado, again, if you have any questions, you can directly write it down in the comment section, or you can just send a direct message, and then we'll read the questions for you as well. All right. So first, Peter, what inspires you to design, to get into this design projects and works, and what is your design philosophy, and how do you stay true to your creative vision?
Yeah, thanks, Mohammed, and great to chat with the community, everyone online listening in. Thanks for joining us. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. And yeah, really nice to connect and to all our friends and old friends and new friends. It's wonderful to be here and share, and hope to see you in the coming months if I can visit, inshallah. That's the plan. But yeah, to your question, Mohammed, I mean, look, we all have journeys through life, and you have to explore with an openness and a curiosity. And alhamdulillah, about 23 years ago, I embraced Islam at the age of 20. But a little before that, the years before that, I was also very interested in design and technology and visual art, in high school, and then I went into university into doing a design degree. And I was fascinated with the potential of design and early technologies, the early years of the internet. So the mid to late 1990s was a fascinating time to be interested in technology and design and communication, and building early websites and early kind of experiments in things like Flash. From people from my era might remember that. Um, but when I kind of embraced Islam or discovered this spiritual path, my late teens and then 20, I really became curious. Well, what does this really mean? What does this beautiful new kind of, what for me was very new sort of world and experience? What does it mean for my creative and design and entrepreneurial aspirations? And I was pretty young, like 2021. A lot to learn. So much curiosity about the world and culture, design, architecture, and when I started to visit some places like the Alhambra Palace in Spain or the Blue Mosque in Turkey, these kinds of beautiful traditional Islamic art and architecture, I felt the beauty of design for what I might call design for remembrance, designing for inviting you to contemplate God and be in a place of beauty and inspiration and contemplation. This is what I felt when I visited some of these traditional places of worship, and the visual design, the experience, the space and the gardens, beautiful. The calligraphy, very, very invites you to a place of wonder. And
Mhm.
at the same time, the kind of design that I was mostly practicing in those early years were really designed more commercially, for selling things or creating a website to help promote a business, which is fine and great as a young freelancer. But basically, my curiosity became is, well, how do these paths reconcile in the modern era? This traditional kind of understanding of Islamic design, its role and purpose. What does that mean in the modern era, trying to run contemporary design and different kind of creative projects in the modern era? So my philosophy, if you like, has really been a hypothesis or an exploration of these two paths for the last 20 years, trying to understand their relationship. And that's really what the book is about as well, is a journey through all of those questions. How do these paths reconcile?
Interesting. So, like, you also get some inspirations from, or from your travel and from your trips, visiting different countries, witnessing like different sort of design trends and ideas and patterns, from mosques to garden and historical sites. So and like, given having said that, like, how do you balance the functionality and the aesthetics in your design work? Like, did you really have to sort of embrace like the diversity that you've seen firsthand in those countries, or you come up with your own ideas?
Yeah, well, the way I think about design now professionally, in terms of how I work in my studio, is really helping. solve problems and trying to use design-led decisions to help ask questions and understand a problem and serve people. Ultimately, design is about people. And you might think of art is really perhaps about asking questions or probing curiosity. And design, for me, is a little more about solving, trying to help answer those questions. But great design is also does both. It helps you solve problems and create solutions, everyday life from the things all around us, from transport to, systems. How do you borrow a library book? How do you renew a passport? How do you book a hotel? This is all using design to, not just have a great experience, but, really connect with products and brands. A lot of our daily experience is really through designed products and brands. But I think, the most kind of noble pursuit of design is also not just to deliver on functionality, but bring a beauty and a quality to our lives so that, where it's appropriate is, if there's a way to invite people to, remember Allah, for example, through a project, through a creative project, not just, artistically, but through some kind of product or brand. Let's take, for example, the platform launchgood.com, which helps many people develop and share their ideas. Over $1 billion has been raised through this platform
Wow.
where people, yeah, kind of propose their ideas and people then support that kind of work. There's lots of great examples of what I would call heart-centered design. So bringing your heart, which brings in functionality and aesthetics together.
Interesting. Wow. Like that's very powerful that not only you sort of absorb what's going on around you, but also you use the sort of methods of heart center designing process. So having said that, can you walk us through your creative process when approaching a new design project? Like, yeah.
Yeah, so most of the work I'm involved with now usually starts with a problem, some sort of challenge. So what are we trying to solve? How are we spending our time here on, on this limited time we have? And there's many challenges and difficulties increasingly so, to overcome. And a design-led approach would be, well, how do we go about helping people? How do we serve people through,
Mhm,
beautifully resolving that? So the process really is ideally around understanding people,
mhm,
what they need help with, how we can best serve them. And then the creative process is really trying to remain open about that and being prepared to iterate and be prepared to take feedback and keep developing something. So depends what the project might be. For example, when my two daughters were a little younger, I remember when the first iPad just came out. So the first tablet, we
yeah.
were living in San Francisco, and I saw on the first day the iPad came out, I let my toddler at the time play with it. And I was like, oh wow, I can see this is going to change a lot because it was so easy and addictive, and it was very novel at the time. Now it's just everyday life. And so
Yeah.
that same day, I remember going to one of my teachers, my spiritual teacher, Alari Hamu, and asked, "Hey, can we put the Quran on the iPad? Is that okay? Do we need wudu to hold the iPad?" Like it was a new kind of thing, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so now, fast forward, what, 15 years later or whatever it is, um, most people I know if they read Quran, it's on a tablet. It's just the norm.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's just it's the culture now. That's how I read it, most days where I can. So the point there is, you're helping still solve the problem, but you're
Mhm.
looking at the changes, you're looking at how we can serve people in a convenient way, but in this case, connecting them with timeless knowledge through a, beautiful interface. So we want to be thinking about how we're solving people's problems, helping them. What is the interface we need to design through a product or a brand or a platform, whatever it might be.
Interesting. So I'm talking about the advancements of technology and then working with different people and clients and group of people and an audience. Like I believe there are some challenges or problems that you encountered in the past. How do you handle that creative blocks if that happened, if that occurred, or challenges in your design work to make sure that you will get things done?
Yeah, look, there's always challenges, which is the great part, is that
Uh-huh.
you overcome that. That's how you grow and learn. And there's personal challenges. There's the path of growth as hopefully mature through your journey. And there's your different seasons of life have different challenges, especially if you're raising a family or building a
Yeah,
company. You're inviting challenges, but they're all a blessing if you can kind of see it
yeah,
that way. Easy to say, difficult to work around in the moment. But so it's kind of reframing it. And in the book, for
mhm,
example, I talk about this idea of rida, and rida is a simple but profound concept of just trying to be in a state or station of contentment and
yeah,
not seeking and chasing happiness at every moment, but sort of
mhm,
finding fulfillment in both, the success and the difficult moments as part of that journey. And so for things like if you have a creative block or a challenge, it's being in that state of consistency. So doing the work, trying to be consistent, showing up, having that discipline, and being around good people. That makes a huge difference. Having the right sahaba around you, inshallah helps so much.
of course. Interesting. So, like talking about the design trends and the industry insights, what current design trends that you find most exciting, and how do you incorporate them into your work, especially probably your latest book?
Yeah, well, I would say that more broadly speaking, what I've noticed and many I think people have noticed in the last probably since the pandemic a few years ago, and
Mhm.
then since October 23 when you know uh we got to see a real clarity on where many of the big companies in the world stand. And not necessarily in alignment with the values that many people I know have. There was there's a sense of urgency around where are we spending our money, what companies are we supporting, who are we working for, how are we spending our time. A lot of spiritual searching, and I think in the last year I've really seen a lot of professionals really question, what's the best use of my time. I'm going to be asked for how, what I'm working on.
Yeah.
And so I would say a design trend, if you like, at least in the many communities I've spent time in the last year or two around the world, alhamdulillah,
Mm.
in many cities, is people are searching for more purpose and fulfillment in their work.
Uh,
And they're really questioning, where is their time and effort going and their intentionality. So I would say that the book is really in service to those individuals and communities that are searching for how do we align our spiritual aspirations and our values and what we care about with our work. And if we can't find the companies that we can work in, how do we maybe develop our own concepts and ideas to keep us fulfilled and engaged spiritually. So it's sort of not exactly a design trend, but I think it is a design trend because people are embracing this way of thinking more and more.
Interesting. So, talking about the pandemic that was just happened or still happening. Probably some people still believe that it's still happening, but the pandemic in specific, did it influence you in one way or the other in sort of creating or producing like specific design that fits to a particular time in human history? And how do you stay up to date with the latest developments again and advancements in the design industry?
Yeah, well, it's hard to believe. I mean, if you go back to that time, we all globally experienced it. It was absolutely a transformational moment globally. You had the world come together like never before. Everything paused
Yeah.
and changed, and it was this quite remarkable 1, 2 year, 3 year sort of journey. And everyone had to had to figure out what does that mean. And there's a lot of searching during that time.
Mhm.
Um, and it just so happened that for example, my own design team, some of the big projects we had lined up, they had to just pause, they had to stop, the clients, projects change, events stop, things like that. But at the same time, the timing was, I feel, was wonderful for the heart of design because I was just about to sort of pilot the first 5-week program that was to test this idea of how might we align our spiritual aspirations and our design aspirations. So the timing was great to, everyone was at home, everyone was learning how to use Zoom, and that's how I first taught the course that I run, which is now I think in its 5th year, and we've had I think around maybe 1,000 people come through it. So it's I think it's just for the take home there, and especially now, got Muhammad, like looking at the world at the moment, we
Yeah,
don't know geopolitically, economically, things are looking very uncertain, right? There's a lot of fear,
very
there's a lot of
uncertainty. Yeah,
um, I think that's where we should, all of us,
yeah,
embrace our creative mindset, embrace our design-led ability to be, agile, explore,
yeah.
be curious, ready to adapt with AI, how things are changing, but just stay spiritually grounded, stay to our principles, and that then you can't go wrong.
Wow. So, well, talking about the geopolitical situation in the past probably a few weeks with the ongoing trade wars that's launched by the US on so many countries globally, especially with China at the moment. Do you think it's going to impact the sort of design industry in the next few years, or do you think it's not going to have any impact at all?
Yeah, it definitely will have impact. I mean, we're also interconnected. Our global communities are also integrated, interconnected. So when significant things happen along those lines, it's inevitable. At the same time, there's a broader arc of change that is just always happening. Looking at what is happening, AI and generative AI, particularly in creative industry, has been a huge
Yeah.
change in the last 2 years since, chat and Mid Journey and other image generation video. It's for text to video. Looking at things like Sora, where from a text prompt, a 10-year-old kid can make like a cinematic looking trailer. Like that's a
Yeah.
big change, right? Probably more so than trade wars and tariffs. You know, uh, so where we need to come back to is like it's hard to advocate for one specific uh profession. It's like, yeah, this is safe profession or whatever. I would say it's more investing in design skills and creative thinking, communication, collaboration. This will kind of enable us wherever we are, whoever we are, whatever industry we're in, whatever training we've had or not had, is it gives us the ability, inshallah, to be adapt, to adapt and learn, iterate. And I think these are the skills that we can start with right away. We can start experimenting with some of our own things on the side. We don't have to have a big innovation project or, build a startup. You can just try some experiments on your own and
Mhm.
learn whatever that might be, and get into this habit of being open and being curious about the future. And then everything becomes an opportunity, instead of fear and
Yeah.
like, oh no, what's happening? The trade war is going to destroy everything. Well, maybe, but throughout that change, we have the ability to stay optimistic. And again, if we're spiritually grounded with our values and being clear on our intention, then be open, be bold, and
Mhm.
sort of be ready to try things.
Interesting. So, and still talking about the geopolitical situation, we all know, and based on the current research conducted by different research institutions or news outlets, that in the past probably 18 months, the number of people reverting to Islam is really, really high. Because what's happening in the Middle East. Do you think your design can sort of give them, a glimpse of what Islam is about, or how like personally, how do you think you can contribute in this sort of, momentum?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, you know, I would never make any claims about what you know, what any individual projects or design efforts would be in the grand scheme. But I do believe that design-led decisions and a by designer mindset is what enables thoughtful, creative, beautiful experiences
Hmm.
to come into the world. And so what I mean by
Yeah.
that is absolutely since, October 23, I've seen firsthand in many cities around the world,
Hmm.
people being really curious about Islam and what is this faith that is proudly part of the Palestinian identity and a big part of the culture that it's entered the consciousness of a whole generation that maybe before weren't so sure about the history in that part of the world and the people. So I have seen like many people become curious about Islam and embrace Islam. And what I believe is we have therefore as Muslims and as people practicing Islam, we have a sort of an amana, an obligation to design helpful content, experiences, products, books, videos
Yeah.
that serve these people as that are curious about it and share the traditional knowledge in a relevant and timely and contemporary way. And sometimes that means books, but other times it's content. But also, I would say, why not games or comics or toys
Mhm.
or beautiful ways of storytelling that share the values, the principles, the concepts that as educational but engaging creative experiences. That is the media that we can build over the coming years to for
Mhm.
more people to kind of see this window into to a space that maybe currently they're they're not don't have that exposure to.
Mhm. Interesting. So having said that, ideas that you just mentioned, like let's say we're trying to bring them all to life, like, and some people are interested in collaborating with you. Can you describe your experiences in the past or in the current uh years, like working with clients and stakeholders to bring their design vision to life, especially the one that you just mentioned? Like, how would you make it happen in the near future? Like,
Yeah, so I'll go back with a fun story. So my first client was in the 11th grade, in I think 1998 it would have been
wow.
when someone who saw me, I was one of my classmates in art class saw me always on these big old Mac computers using
Right.
Photoshop and making posters and trying to make stuff. And he asked me, "Hey, I've got this, I'm running this, event. Can I hire you to make a poster?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he didn't, he said, how much? I was like, I don't know, $25, I think I said. And he said, okay. And suddenly a new world opened where I realized, wow, I can design posters and get paid. And so I quit my job flipping burgers at that time and
Yeah.
invested in pushing pixels, right? In being a designer. So
Mhm.
um but with that, it's not just the creative practice of creating, communication and sharing ideas through graphic design. It is then you have to learn the art and science and craft of serving your clients and the partners that you are here that are enabling this work to happen. And so I got my first taste of that at that time. Fortunately, that first project went well enough that I
Uh-huh.
was able to continue doing that. And I basically started my design studio when I was in second year of university, and then have kind of been, on one sort of path since then. So there's plenty of experiences and do's and don'ts, and plenty of mistakes along the way. But in recent years they've been quite broad. So I just finished a project for Google doing some Ramadan content and story for Muslim employees at Google. So that was a really fun
Uh-huh.
project. Obviously that's a large, enterprise client with tens of thousands of employees and team members. But then other times I'll work with the same time an individual author.
Mhm.
So, I do some work with, say, Yasmin Mogahed. She's a speaker, a
Yeah,
teacher,
yeah.
Ostada, and doing her book covers and helping with some of, little projects there. So, uh, it, but they're basically the same. It's trying to design is ultimately about people, right? Design is really about people. So, and as an entrepreneur, you need to understand people and maintain that mindset of serving those people through your work.
So, talking about working with different big names and organizations, and how do you effectively communicate your designed ideas and concepts to those people or organizations?
I think you first need to have a clear within yourself and your team,
Uh-huh.
a clear intentionality. So really understand why you're doing this. If you can't clearly explain that, whatever it might be, a big project or something small, a side hustle or a major sort of engagement or partnership, whatever it is, you have to have a very clear, I think, personal intention of why this matters to you, and everything stems from that. And in the case of a someone on the spiritual path, someone who might be Muslim, for example, so the way we frame our time in this life and this work that we do is trying to be most beneficial to others and in humanity in the work that we can do
Mhm.
with the talents and opportunities we're given. So when you can have that understanding that you're not just trying to build for your own personal success and you're not just trying to build your own personal wealth and influence, those things may come in the path. But having that first understanding, then when you go to communicate your design ideas and concepts, or maybe pitching something like a startup concept, for example,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, then it's clear because it's the place it's coming from shines through. And if you're clear on that foundation and you're conscious about it, then the design ideas really reflect that inner intention.
Interesting. So, and I believe during this process, and even with a very, very extensive communication, um, I believe, I mean, like, you must have experienced some disagreements with your clients and the people that you work with. And how did you sort of solve that situation? And how did you guys come up with sort of, well, let's come to term and then let's do this. We're on the same page now.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're all human, right? And so, when you're in a collaborative environment, there's different kinds of friction, which is good. You want healthy collaborative friction. There's that old adage, if two people agree on everything all the time, one of them isn't necessary, right? And in business, I've heard that's a healthy understanding. You want creative friction, constructive way. So, to improve and pull out the best in a product or a brand or whatever the project might be. Um, and when things are, unhealthy friction, or there's disagreement or different misalignment for different things, then, it's there's lots of ways of kind of managing and understanding that. But if it is a sort of service provider and client situation, then ultimately you've got to be driven by what the client or project is kind of demanding. But I think one way to just bring everyone back to is the alignment on the values, the intentionality, and that should be set from the start. If that's clear, then a
Mhm.
lot of trust can be developed that way. And I've been able to alhamdulillah navigate all kinds of scenarios over 2 decades, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, moving on to the next question, Peter. What role do you think Australian designers play in the global design community, and how do you contribute to this scene in the next few years?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I mean, let's say many of us are on, let's say, Instagram, or, we all have some sort of online, content that we consume. So many of the things that I follow and accounts that I might enjoy, I don't actually know where they're from, right? Necessarily, unless I sort of things come up that, the algorithm pushes to me where
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, I
exactly.
actually really like that. And so it's definitely something on Instagram, which is a very visual medium. You see a lot of, beautiful creative work and impressive, different kind of design work that might come. And so I don't necessarily tie that back to a nationality or geography, and I'll end up following. Actually, it'd be a really interesting exercise to see if there's some quick data on Instagram that's like generate report on me and show me the countries I follow where people are from. But
Uh-huh.
I think, the point there is like, I don't like alhamdulillah, I'm very fortunate, to be based in Australia. I'm grateful for, so many things that, this being based here is able for my life and my family. But I don't frame my work through an Australian lens as sort of like there's a particular, identity that I need to, uh, you know, reflect. I think, but to be fair, there's probably some things that just are baked in. So I'm very fortunate. My design studio here is close to the beach. It's just, a
Yeah,
minute walk. We have good coffee right next door. There's a lot of sunshine, nature. These things
yeah.
I associate with Australia and nature walks. It's true. There's a certain quality of light in the sky in this country that I don't find in the Gulf region where I spend a lot of time. But I
Mhm.
find other beauty that's undeniably, unique to that region. So anyway, coming back to your question, just kind of having my own little mini khutbah here about, geography, but uh, I would say it's whoever we are, whatever our background is, it's embracing that cultural influence we have and not just trying to necessarily replicate what we see out of the Silicon Valley or a very Eurocentric view of design in the world, which most of the design education I received was
Mhm.
very Eurocentric. It was it looked to a handful of designers and approach. And I think I'm really excited to revisit Islamic design understandings and perspectives that would be very welcome today. So I would say as an Australian, but as a Muslim, lean into all our cultural upbringing, and all of us can do that and bring that to the professional lens we have, and proudly,
Mhm.
proudly embrace the beautiful things from your tradition and your culture to bring that to the world.
So having said that, are you saying that the Australian natural and cultural elements play very important roles in sort of giving you the ideas and inspirations that sort of gives your designs a very unique characters?
Look, I think it wasn't something I was so conscious of, but I definitely say like in my early creative journey professionally, clearly the influences were from the design school I went to in Australia,
Mhm.
the kind of brands I followed, the kind of designers I followed that were all, from Europe or the US, and the kind of graphic design magazines or digital design kind of projects I followed. I was really lacking access. I was lacking the exposure
Uh-huh.
of the world, of the incredibly diverse, rich world from the global south, from
Uh-huh.
many parts of Asia, from the Middle East. I just didn't know. It wasn't in my view, which is a reflection of the cultural environment I think that I was practicing in. So what was a incredibly enriching experience was visiting and spending months in parts of in traditional Islamic cities. For example, I spent time in Syria or
Mhm.
Jordan, or Turkey. And then
Yeah.
I love spending time in Indonesia, in Bandung, in Jakarta. You spend a weekend in Bandung, you're gonna have this, creative experience that is so cool and so unique that it's such a hidden gem for so much of the world. They don't know what's there, or in Jakarta or Jogja. There's so much I'm saying is I love, it's So the we're all a product of those environments, but we need to maybe be more confident in embracing those and sharing those.
Interesting. And mentioning those Indonesian cities like Jakarta, Bandung, Jogja, do you think other than Indonesia, like for example, Malaysia, Brunei, and then southern part of Thailand and southern part of the Philippines, like do you think this region, this part of the Southeast Asian region will be able to give you some new perspectives or ideas in like producing a new design style for you?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's more isn't necessarily this, as one teacher put it, it's not necessarily important to develop your own style, but develop your own approach, is what he said. And so
Mhm.
what I've personally been so appreciative to have is the ability to spend time in different regions and cities and be around creative thinkers and be around different kind of innovators and change makers. They're not necessarily designers, they're from different disciplines, different practices, but that's an incredibly privileged position. I'd be the first to say that. But if you're able to do that, even in limited ways, one city, two cities, what in your region. So definitely, in the places you mentioned, in Malaysia, I was just visiting, and Singapore, and other, beautiful cities in the region. It absolutely enriches your perspective. It gives you,
Mhm.
uh, it gives you a human connection with places that open your ability to empathize more, but also just sometimes discovering something unexpected. So I was in Malacca in Malaysia
Yeah.
a couple of months ago. I hadn't been before, and I just loved the diverse vibrancy in one city, the layers of history because of it was a trade route from the
Hey.
Portuguese to different parts of layers, and then different influences. Even Zheng He, I think, came through, the Chinese admiral came through there in
Yeah.
like 14 something. And I was like, that's incredible, right? And what are
Yeah.
the stories, the richness, and the streets where you see the wood, the paint flaking off, the layers of the shops there, and the
Yeah.
wooden details that are like 400 years old. Like
Yeah.
that's we it's amazing to me. Sometimes a little detail of a little fleck of paint, and you think, wow, this is some sailor from 500 years ago came through here and probably like chipped that off, or like painted it,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
we have to remain in a state of wonder and curiosity. I think it just brings that it keeps bringing that richness to life, and know that we're part of this long human story. And even though there's all this incredible trouble and drama happening now, there's always been cycles of that and moments of that. For that's the nature of this life, this dunya. So
Mhm.
it gives you perspective as well, that okay, things are tough now, but look at all these layers of history. We're just part of that, and inshallah, things continue. But let's use the precious time we have now to make beautiful things and stay curious about the past too.
Yeah. And are there any unique challenges or opportunities that Australian designers face at the moment? Like you can sort of share your own personal insights or experiences, and how do you navigate these challenges or situation? And also, like, are you opening up your studio, your personal studio for like public visit at any time, or
Yeah, well, we have occasionally meetups at the studio. So I have a little studio in
uh,
Sydney, and yeah, we have little events here, and people are It's not a big space, but alhamdulillah, people are welcome. Um, And yeah, in terms of challenges for Australian design, I would say it's still more broadly, the world looking at what is the role, nature, and purpose of design.
Mhm.
Where do we belong? And yeah, Australian designers specifically, I think we're facing a lot of change as well. We're a small economy, in a big place, in a big, a very competitive, hyper, global, landscape where, the cost of living in Australia is very high. I think Sydney is one among the highest in the world in terms of cost of living, rent, housing. And so if you're running a business here and you're hiring a team of Australian designers, um, it's tough. It's very expensive, right?
Mhm.
So Australian designers, both who are running the studios and also the people that are trying to get a job or have had a job trying to keep the job at the
Mhm.
moment, it's a tough moment because of the changing nature. I've seen that. At the same time, I always think more optimistically. Well, at the same time, the conventional path might look very difficult, but there's so many opportunities opening up through
Mhm.
different industries changing, many problems to solve, AI enabling. I mean, come on, like you spend like 1 hour with Chat GPT 4.0, the current model, you know, man, it's phenomenal. Like as a
Yeah,
one person individual, the research you can do, the insights you can get, the
that's
thinking. I mean, for all the difficult things we're facing, wow, like we have access to opportunities and knowledge more than ever before. The
mhm.
tools we have, my 11-year-old can open up Canva and create something in 2 minutes that took me 2 years to learn how to do and 2 days to make. He does in like 2 minutes. So, are you going to complain about that and be like, oh, we're all doomed? Or are you going to be like, well, that's awesome. What
Yeah.
are we doing with that? And I'm kind of more in that camp.
So are your children now following your footsteps in the design industry or like
I don't know. I mean, I have two teenagers and my son. So, I think I would just encourage them to stay curious. I do hope that, all young people, feel empowered to, become, I mean, they're inheriting a difficult world at the moment. They really are, our generation and the ones before
yeah.
us, we've got a lot to answer for. So through all of this possibility, through these tools and platforms, uh, I would love to see our, this design-led future where we are
Mhm.
really thinking, problems rather than just profit and
Mhm.
solving them for people. But
Yeah.
inshallah, they do it in a heart-centered way, which means spiritually grounded,
Yeah.
aligned with our faith, and rooted in something meaningful, not just making a distraction.
Interesting. So now let's talk about the most important thing right now, the book that you just wrote and published, The Heart of Design, Spirituality, Creativity, and Entrepreneurship. What inspired you to write the book?
Well, thanks for asking. I've got a stack on my desk here only because one of my partners that works in the space just ordered, a whole bunch of them for his friends. So I just gotta go. There's a fresh batch of them right on my desk. So I wouldn't normally have it right here, but yeah. So the Heart of Design. This one's still
Yeah.
in its
How
wrapping.
many pages is that?
The book's about 400, and here I get it. The
Wow.
book is about 450 pages.
Yeah.
Um, and here, this is an open one. So it looks like this: the heart of design, spirituality, creativity, and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It opens with the Bismillah, and then it
Inshallah.
takes you
Yeah.
on a journey of different. There are 7 spiritual aspirations. So these are words that are concepts familiar to Muslims, or universal concepts as well, like aman, our responsibility
Yeah.
to use
Yeah.
design entrepreneurship. And then there are 7 design principles. So these are fairly timeless design concepts, like so thinking about our creativity and imagination.
Mhm.
And then there's some tools. So how do you bring these ideas together? And then there are about 20 stories from people that I think have really understood this intersection. And they're with people like Imam Omar Suleiman, people like Yasmin
Wow.
Mugarhed, Sami
Wow.
Youssef,
Wow.
Um,
Some big
you know,
name.
some big names, and they kindly in the book to help guide some of the uh, real life applications of these ideas.
And how long did you take to finish the book, the 400 pages?
Well, I think it was around 10 years to be honest. Like it's really it was
Wow.
the early because the I was writing, and working on, pieces of this and teaching workshops
Yeah.
and working on things like the business model canvas,
Yeah.
and different, the early pieces were from at least 10 years ago, and running
Wow.
workshops about design and branding, for at least a decade. And then it just became more gradually more important I felt, as people were asking me more questions and I was getting more requests for workshops. And, I kind of got more structured in like, okay, I think I'll pull this together, run a program. I had been in conversation with people for really, since I became Muslim, like, well, what
Mhm.
is what is ikhlas? What is
Yeah.
ihsan? People always quote this hadith about beauty, like, what does it mean? So I had all these questions. So it really took, but I think the more serious writing effort was the really last 7, 8 years, and then eventually the last maybe, 3, 4 years to I wrote a whole version. It wasn't very good. Started again. Spent another year, 2 years writing that version. I shared it with my teacher, and he's like, "It's good, but you can do better." So I kind of reset it again a third time and worked on it for another year. Worked with the editor, wrote a whole full version again. I sent it to my teacher. And I was like intern. I was like, oh my God, I can't do this again. This has got to be it. Please, So I was like a bit anxious about his feedback, and then he said, alhamdulillah, he said, it's remarkable, and you found your voice. So alhamdulillah. And I was like, thank God, because
Congratulations. Yeah.
yeah, it was important that I got I
The
didn't I wanted to have the book at the level that I felt um, it's accessible. It's captured the intentionality, and alhamdulillah, we made it eventually. We got there.
Yeah. And talking about the heart-centered design, can you tell us more about your approach to it?
Yeah, so heart centered design is, it's very simple. It's the spiritual concepts that we learn about on the spiritual path as Muslims, but
Mm,
they're also universal. So intentionality, thinking of our work, as a responsibility, as an amana, doing things, the right way, working with in ikhlas, with sincerity,
mm, mm,
understanding. As an entrepreneur or professional, you need the rida, this contentment.
mhm,
It's basically taking these concepts and then that we're familiar with as Muslims, but then directly applying them to the design and entrepreneurial context. So if you're a startup founder, well, what does ihsan look like? What is the
mm,
rida? Why is that important? What is barakah? What's barakah in running a company? So
mhm.
I kind of took these concepts and I interviewed about 50 plus people, and got a lot of their insights, and helped inform what is really the heart of the book of what does that look like. Then I've got another seven more specific design principles. These are just basic, so understanding simplicity,
Mhm,
experimentation, creativity, structure,
mhm.
so just basics that would be a good introduction to someone who's not so familiar with design. It's not meant to be a book for designers, although designers absolutely, I think, will inshallah get value from it. But anyone who's wanting to learn how to think like a designer, and not just a visual designer, not just how to make things look great, but solving problems, building products, building startups. This is thinking like a designer, and that's art-centered design is bringing these things all together.
Interesting. So, having mentioned the sort of benefits for designers, how does your book will help the readers balance their professional and spiritual aspirations?
So I really hope for two things,
Uh-huh.
guidance and inspiration. So guidance is, the things that I've learned or been taught to me by many of these, successful, what I would say holistically successful professionals and creative leaders and thinkers. The lessons I've kind of distilled from them. And so there's lots of little stories and anecdotes. So it's that kind of guidance of, here's sort of how you could think about these two things together. And then
Mhm.
inspiration is, the stories of success. So, the people that have paved the way, that have, give us good examples. So inshallah, it's with those two things, guidance, inspiration. And the third part, the programs that I teach online, the platform I have is community. So guidance, inspiration, communities, like how we meet, stay connected, having the sahba and companionship. Anyone is welcome listening to join us at theheartofdesign.com with our next program starting in a few weeks. It'll be a 5-week course. I hope you could join us for that as well, inshallah.
Inshallah. Well, I'll keep that in mind, the three elements: community, inspiration, and guidance. And next, what sets the Heart of Design book apart from other design books?
Yeah, so I think what we're trying to do here is trying to integrate or explore the intersection of sometimes what are considered separate conversations. So spirituality, if you go to, Peri Plus or Kinokuniwa, you might find a big section on spirituality and all these beautiful
Yeah.
books. Then you go to art and design, or business, and you'll find, whole shelves there. What I'm trying to do in this book, and it's ambitious, so the jury is out whether it's successful or not, is bring these three conversations together in a holistic way and explore them more openly. So it's bringing spirituality and purposeful living. It's bringing design tools, so thinking like a designer, not just visual designer, but how we think about the world and solve problems and create meaningful work. And then
Yeah.
business. So how do you build, entrepreneurially a sustainable company or startup? So I think what sets it apart, inshallah, is bringing these together and then giving lots of examples. So it's showing us, inshallah, that it's possible. And here's a bunch of stories of people that are doing that.
Interesting. And last but not least, what's next for you? And how do you hope the book, The Heart of Design, will impact your readers, your
World, there's a lot of despair, a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of fear. And I hope, inshallah, God willing, bi'idhnillah, this book will give people more hope, more confidence to embrace their creativity, their imagination, really follow the things they care about in the world, how they can make progress on that. What are the actionable steps to that? So inshallah, if we can have people, and I would love from Southeast Asia, right across, from Brunei to Malaysia, parts of Thailand, Indonesia, Australia, wherever we might be and beyond, is encouraging us to, um, to explore this intersection of your spiritual path with your entrepreneurial aspirations, inshallah.
inshallah. So before we conclude this very inspiring, insightful, and fruitful discussion this evening, how can we get your book, Peter? Like, is it available online, or is it available on bookstores in Southeast Asia or only in Australia at the moment?
So alhamdulillah, we've been launching it globally. It's in many countries
Wow.
now. Yeah, it's I have the Sydney launch this weekend, Dubai next week, Qatar the week after, Abu Dhabi, then London not too long after that. I'm hoping, inshallah, to do a book tour in Asia, maybe in a few months as well, and visit parts of Southeast Asia. I've got, alhamdulillah, a lot of requests there. We do have the book in Malaysia now and Singapore. Indonesia,
Wow.
I think it's arriving soon.
Mhm.
And but you can also get it as an ebook, so you can go onto Amazon or Kindle or anywhere and get the ebook or Apple Books
Yeah.
if you want to read quickly. So if you want the content, you can just go get the ebook. But if you
Mhm.
want the physical book, which I recommend, then
Yeah,
yeah, you can order online. There's companies will deliver anywhere, and we have alhamdulillah some great readers across Indonesia.
yeah.
And I'm exploring translation into Bahasa Indonesia as well. Hopefully, a bit later in the year, inshallah.
Inshallah. So, are you saying that after next week, the launch of the book in Australia, are you going to be doing this global like I would say the world tour of your book in especially in the Middle East, the cities and countries that you mentioned? So
That's
you'll be
right.
doing
Yeah,
it in a few
I'll
weeks,
be
right?
Dubai. That's right. So
Wow.
Sydney this weekend is the first one. Next weekend in Dubai is a big one.
Yeah.
We already have, I think, 200 people coming for that. Should be really nice. Abu Dhabi as well. We'll do one.
Yeah.
And then inshallah we'll head to Doha, to Qatar, where I'm giving a big commencement speech to some to the graduating class.
Mhm.
They will all receive a copy of my book, the graduating class in Qatar, which is nice. And then the next one will be in London, inshallah, as part of Muslim Tech Fest. That week there'll be and
Mhm.
we'll do a big launch at East London Mosque, 200-300 people, inshallah. And
Wow.
it's really a celebration of the community and a time. We need a time of hope and optimism and coming together. So I hope the book will be a magnet for like-hearted people to come together and do
Yeah.
good work, inshallah.
I'm happy for you because after 10 years of writing and collecting, compiling all the materials and inspiration, now you just ripe the fruits and the all the good things that you have been expecting the past decade. Well, again, congratulations, Peter Gould, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me and joining us. All the way in Sydney. And again, if you'd like to follow Peter Gould, he's on Instagram, Peter Gould Art, and his book will be available in the market sometime this weekend or next week in Australia and Southeast Asia. If you and again, Peter, if you happen to be here. If you need any help with your book tour in Indonesia, we'll be very, very happy to assist you with that, and especially with the translation into Bahasa Indonesia. We have a
Amazing.
team full of dynamic and enthusiastic young people, the Gen Zers. So we'll be very happy to help you with the translation into Indonesian language, inshallah. So again, congratulations, inshallah. It will give you more barakah, your family, and then all the Muslim brothers and sisters all around the world. And again, thank you so much for joining me. It has been a very, very insightful. And again, I'm very honored because, like, 20 years ago, I only saw your name on Google, when it was first launched. And then, like, now we can have a very very inspiring discussion, I would say. Again, thank you, Asians, and wherever you are in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, the Philippines, and beyond. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you again in the next episode of The Viewpoint. Peter, thank you so much, and have a very good evening, and then congratulations and good luck with your next world tour.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to chat. And Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Alaikum salam.